Hello and welcome to Shoot the Hostage. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Dan.
We're a movie show that delves into a different film each week based around a theme. This season, the theme is cops. Like all good podcasts, this show contains explicit language and mature content, as well as major spoilers for the movie that we're covering.
Final episode of season 1.
We made it!
We made it!
We did it!
We're covering The Raid, finally, The Raid. This is the second time I've covered this movie, actually.
Is it really?
I covered this for Twin Peaks podcast about 3 years ago, I think, in a martial arts double bill.
Oh, what was it billed with?
A Bruce Lee movie. I think it was Enter the Dragon.
Okay.
I think.
The Bruce Lee movie. The one that everyone knows.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we're talking about The Raid from 2011, directed by Gareth Evans.
Yes.
We've accidentally bookended our first season with movies featuring the character name Mad Dog.
We have.
Hard Boiled.
That was completely unintentional because Hard Boiled was a first time watch.
Yeah. And that's got to be intentional, right? Gareth Evans must have been, like, I'm stealing that name.
Yeah, I would imagine so. He from all the Gareth Evans content we've consumed in prep for this show, it's quite clear that he's a huge fan of martial arts and action films in general.
Yeah, and he's quite willing to admit that he rips off John Woo, unlike Michael Bay, who's like, no, I've never even seen a John Woo movie. Who's John Woo?
Jinx.
So, The Raid 2011. Shall I synopsis you?
Please.
Okay. So Gareth Evans, I'm going to do the tagline here. I don't usually do this. 1 ruthless crime lord, 20 elite cops, 30 floors of hell.
That's bullshit. There's only 15 floors.
Yeah, you're right.
Unless they're counting the way down.
Maybe. Okay, so strap yourself in for this synopsis because it's a bit of a long one.
Oh, that's what she said.
Mm-hmm. I've never heard that. Okay, moving on. Deep in the heart of Jakarta's slums lies an impenetrable safe house for the world's most dangerous killers and gangsters. Until now, the rundown apartment block has been considered untouchable to even the bravest of police. Cloaked under the cover of pre-dawn darkness and silence, an elite SWAT team is tasked with raiding the safe house in order to take down the notorious drug lord that runs it.
Oh my god, take a breath.
But when a chance encounter with a spotter blows their cover and news of their assault reaches the drug lord, the building's lights are cut and the exits blocked. Stranded on a 6th floor with no way out, the unit must fight their way through the city's worst to survive their mission, starring Indonesian martial arts sensation E08.
Oh my god.
It stars E08 as Rama, Joe Taslim as Jakar, Donnie Alamsyah as Andy, Yayan Ran as Mad Dog. There are other people. There are loads of people in this. Obviously, it's an
most
action
of them
movie.
are just disposable grunts.
Most of them are just getting thrown at walls and stuff. But yeah, action movie. We'll get into it. The action movie, maybe.
Ooh.
We'll get into that. I haven't got the box office, but I wrote the budget down as 1.1 million.
Yeah.
I don't know how accurate that is, but could be right.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clearly not a mega budget movie.
No.
But having seen interviews with Gareth Evans, he's obviously got a good creative team that he works with or worked with that worked around a lot of constraints.
Yeah, absolutely. And therein lies probably some really creative, interesting solutions that just add to the feel of the movie, I feel like. There's a little bit that we'll talk about with camera and stuff, probably as we get into the podcast.
Yep.
But just a little bit on Gareth Evans.
Mm-hmm.
So he's Welsh.
Yep.
He's
with a name like Gareth Evans. Gareth Evans.
he obviously, I think the question that he's probably most sick of answering is why is a white Welsh man making Indonesian action films? But the answer to that question is that he was living in Wales and then he moved over to Indonesia with his partner who had secured him a gig directing a documentary about Silat.
I think his wife is half Indonesian.
Right, okay. Which introduced him to E08.
Mm-hmm.
And he met him and was like, this guy has got charisma,
something.
He's got screen presence, and how right he was.
Yeah.
That led him to making Marantau, which was his first feature, which came out in 2000, I want to say 2009, 2007 or 2009, one of those two. Correct us in the comments.
That's one that we saw relatively recently.
Yeah, yes, correct. I found it cheap on eBay. On
really
DVD.
Enjoyed it, though.
It was great. It was really good. I really liked it.
Was it his second feature? Strictly speaking.
What, Gareth Evans?
Yeah.
I think it was his first.
Was it his first feature?
I think so. I think he'd obviously made documentary and stuff, and he'd made short films, or maybe he'd made a feature, but maybe like more of a student level type thing.
That was impressive then for a first timer.
Yeah, it was I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great, and obviously you got to see Eco, all of his strengths in that movie. I obviously saw The Raid first, and that was the first time I'd ever seen Eco Race on screen, and was just blown away by his work. But yeah, so that's how Gareth Evans got into making Indonesian action films, and now he's back in the UK, and he's made obviously Gangs of London, which we binged a few weeks ago.
We're going to touch on some of this throughout the show, I think, because this is probably like the most content I've ever consumed in preparation for a single show.
All right.
Because we did make a point of, obviously we saw Marantau months ago. I saw Apostle for the first time in the last fortnight.
Yeah.
And we've raced through both seasons of Gangs of London.
Yeah.
So I think we've got a pretty rounded idea of what Gareth Evans is capable of
at
this point.
And at time of recording, it seems like he's going back to having done a little bit of horror in Apostle, and then some drama stroke ridiculous action in Gangs of London. He's now returning to the action film genre, I think, with Havoc, with one Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Which I'm really excited about.
I know very little about it, but I'm excited about anything Gareth Evans does.
I'll watch anything Gareth Evans does. And initially I was like, Tom Hardy? But, you know, he was great in Warrior.
He was a beast in Warrior. He was
fucking brilliant in Warrior.
Yeah.
And he's a genuine martial arts guy, right? He's winning like MMA fights and stuff, and he does that on the side. And he's got that kind of action. He kicks people in the face. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. So I think that could be good, but I think that's been in development hell for ages.
Has it really?
Yeah, I think it took a while to even get it started shooting. I think the
was
pandemic,
it COVID delays? Yeah,
I think the pandemic interfered with the pre-production at least with that movie. And then I just watched an interview with Gareth Evans where he was talking about working remotely and doing a lot of the previs in VR and stuff like that. So I think it's been a long old production process, but hopefully that's out this year.
I'm crossing my fingers. I'm crossing everything.
Yes.
We need more Gareth Evans.
Absolutely. So that brings us up to date with Gareth Evans' filmography.
Take a shot every time we say Gareth Evans.
Gareth? Yeah. But we're here to talk about The Raid.
Yep.
So where do you start with this movie? Because it's a masterpiece. Like off the bat, I love it. I think it's incredible. And there's so many different things that I want to talk about. And I don't know if we'll get to all of them, but I just don't really know where to start.
I know what you mean.
I'll be honest.
Oh God, is the Welsh accent going to creep in more and more?
That wasn't Welsh.
But at that. Yeah, so I don't really know where to start either, but I will kind of say at the head of the show, this is probably, it is my favourite action movie. I've seen this so many times at this point. We've watched it twice in the past week.
Yeah. I've seen it maybe 8 or 9 times, I think.
I've seen it a lot, but probably a little bit more than that. But I've only seen The Raid 2 once, which is criminal, to be honest. I really need to get my act together and give that a rewatch. But I would say not only is The Raid my favourite action movie, but I think it's kind of cracked its way into my top 10 of all time.
Okay. Yeah.
Which it sits among some odd choices.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a long time I was just like, this is the best. Like the rewatch value.
Yeah, it's lean, it's tight, it's just you get straight into it, and it just doesn't outstay its welcome. I feel like that's the main rewatch factor for me, is because of the running time and how just in and out it is. Whereas The Raid 2 is epic and it's incredible, but it's just a bit too long.
Bit more of a Godfather vibe.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to sit down on a Tuesday and at 9 o'clock and put on The Raid 2 because it's just too long. Whereas The Raid, I can put that on have my lunch and watch The Raid.
Yeah.
Maybe we will start at the beginning then, because you kind of see a little bit of Eco's character, and you see what he's kind of fighting for. Got a family on the way.
I loved that because like the intro is so brief. Like there's no words spoken really. You get a glimpse of his family life.
Yeah.
And that's all there is, a glimpse.
Yeah.
You get a glimpse of him kind of at the punch bag.
Yeah.
You see how fucking swift he is.
Yeah.
He's a menace.
Well, you can see blurs, which I think are his arms. But he's moving so quickly, I can't see. My brain can't process
register.
It. Yeah.
But that's all we need. I wish more films did that exact thing, because there are so many films that kind of overdo the setup. And we don't need that much information.
Not for this type of movie, you don't know.
But we get an idea of who he is in just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And that's it. Title card, then they're in the back of the van.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant.
Yeah. I think that scene was longer initially, and Gareth was kind of refining it as he went through, and kind of had the same thought of, we just need to know the smallest amount about this guy, who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Expertly done, because as you say, there's very little dialogue, but you just see that he's got a pregnant partner, and he's good at a fight. And as you say, cuts to the van, and they're all on their way to this building, the SWAT guys. And then that's where you see Joe Taslim for the first time as Jacker, and then they're just on their way to this notorious building that is housing criminals. Any underworld.
But not everybody in the building is a criminal, as we will talk about.
Okay.
There are some nice people who assist our hero.
Yes.
But predominantly criminals.
Yeah.
Who would choose to live there?
Well, if it's cheap rent,
would you tolerate that?
Maybe. Maybe.
Okay. You're more interested in the drugs lab.
No, that's definitely not true. So straight into the action then, as they're trying to break their way into this building. They do a bit of stealth.
Yeah.
Moving around quietly and taking people out with bits of wire and that sort of thing. Really nicely shot, as the whole of this film is.
Yeah.
Like, the camera work is, aside from the martial arts and the stunts, is probably the thing that gives this the most character, I would say.
I agree. Gareth Evans definitely has a style, and I didn't realise that until watching Apostle.
Yeah. And
it was really unusual to see a lot of his kind of trademark camera movements in a horror film. Yeah. That kind of, it threw me, because for the most part it was sort of filmed fairly normally, and then there'd be bits where the camera would tilt, follow the action kind of thing, and it was like, oh man, this is a Gareth Evans film. Yeah,
it's got his work has his name written all over it because of the camera work, and I think his longtime collaborator Matt Flannery, who's his director of photography, works on all of his stuff.
Okay.
And I think between them they've got this very nice aesthetic. And I think I heard Gareth say, he would come up with a shot and an idea of how to move the camera, and Matt would say, yeah, but why? What's that?
Right, okay.
Is that going to help with the character or going to bring something to the action? And if the answer is no, it's just cool, then it doesn't go in.
Okay.
So I think between them, I'd love to give Gareth Evans all of the praise, but I think certainly Matt Flannery as a DOP is probably mostly responsible for how the film looks.
Okay.
Between them anyway.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about some of the camera work then?
Sure.
Yeah. There's a particular scene where they are having a fight in the room, and there's a hole in the floor.
Yeah.
And then they jump through the hole, and the camera follows them through, and that's the camera person who's got a fig rig, and they pass it down to someone on the ground floor.
Okay.
There's someone standing on a table on the floor below, and they're just literally passing the camera through like that. And it's on a fig rig, which is like a wheel that you mount the camera to, which was invented by Mike Figgis, the director. I think
hence the name.
Hence the name, fig rig. Yeah, it's not named after the biscuit. I think he invented.
You know what, fig is a fruit, right?
What? It's a biscuit. It's a cookie. But so Mike Figgis invented that, I think, in 2000-ish for his movie Time Code, or that's what I've heard anyway.
Interesting.
And they're really cool actually. I nearly bought one the other day.
Did you?
There's one.
For what purpose?
I don't know, because it's cool. I'll buy it. It's like that camera stand I've got over there. Never used it. I just like these things. But yeah, you can mount your phone on it. So I thought maybe we can follow the cats around with it.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Cat cam.
Cat cam stuff. But yeah, the camera work is great, and I think a lot of that is to do with the fig rig. I think probably in later movies he does more like crane shots and stuff like that. But I imagine that a lot of this, you mentioned about the budget and stuff being restricted. I think a lot of it, the reason is that's a lot of the reason why they went with that fig rig. But it gives you a lot of adaptability. You can grab it from any angle. So the fact that they can pass it through the floor, holding it from above and pass it down to someone who can grab it from below.
And still stay steady.
Exactly, and it stays steady. But that's not easy, and you have to do multiple takes of that to get it right, because it's not always seamless, and it's really difficult to maintain like a fluid
I can
flow.
imagine, yeah.
So there would have been take after take after take of that sort of thing. But it shows the fluidity of the movement and of the camera with the stunt choreography. It's just expertly planned. I think a lot of that probably is from the planning stage and doing the fight choreography in a dojo or whatever, and figuring out their shot list, being able to make it work in the location.
It's interesting. It was interesting to hear Evans talk about how the fight choreography came about.
Okay.
Because obviously he said that he's not a martial arts guy. He has an interest in it, but he's not a fighter. So he kind of handed the reins over to Iko and is it Yayan?
Yayan, yeah.
And just kind of gave them a brief outline, and they filled in the rest. Yeah. Which I think is really interesting. Yeah. And something I think is really quite special is the fact that Gareth Evans doesn't speak Indonesian. And most of the stars didn't speak English at the time. Right. So how, the communication, how do you do that? How do you make a perfect movie without even speaking the language?
Translator, I guess.
But I mean, that's so magical. Yeah. Everything just aligned. Yeah. I don't know. I find that especially impressive, I would say. But yeah, so Iko, I could watch him wreck people. He's for hours on end.
He's incredible. Yeah. And I've seen probably most of his movies now. I think
I've seen everything bar Beyond Skyline.
I've seen that.
Well, of course you have. Frank Grillo's in it.
Yeah. And actually, no, that might have been the first Iko movie that I watched. Okay. But I didn't really know who he was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've seen most of his movies, and I just would love to see him do more stuff. But I think he's mostly doing choreography work. He certainly did his own choreography for, what was that Peter Berg movie called? The Wahlberg one.
Oh, Mile 22. Yeah, that wasn't good.
I didn't particularly enjoy that movie, but we watched it because Iko was in it. Yeah. And he was certainly the best thing in that movie.
But I think Mile 22 is a really good example of how underused he is in the American projects he's been in.
Yeah. And not only that, I think his choreography was incredible in that movie, and there's one particular scene where he's handcuffed, I think, to a hospital bed, and the moves he's doing are incredible, but they just were cutting too much, and they didn't have him all in frame, and it was just really quick cuts, and that's not how you shoot action. No, not how you shoot that kind of action movie, in my opinion. No, certainly not with Iko. If you're shooting Liam Neeson kicking someone in the face, then yeah, you've got to do that, but no need for it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think I'm hoping, with the success of the John Wick universe, the fact that they're expanding that to spin-off projects now is going to change the tides a little bit, because obviously the fight scenes are filmed beautifully in those films. Yeah. They're not super close up and choppy. It's pulled back so you can actually see the action, see that these people are actually fighting or, doing the choreography. Yeah. And that's what's lacking in most action movies.
Yeah, absolutely. Hollywood action movies as a whole have been pretty mediocre at best for the last 10, 20 years.
When it comes to hand-to-hand combat stuff, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you wanted to watch proper action, good action, you either had lower budget American or UK stuff that had some good action. I'm thinking of Scott Adkins' projects. Yeah. He's really, really good at what he does.
But the films are pony.
But the films are not great. Yeah. Yes. Some are better than others, but yeah, they're pretty weak as a whole. But him as an action star is brilliant. So you can watch those movies, but except they're not the greatest. in terms of plot, or you can go overseas and watch Hong Kong action movies and obviously Indonesian movies and Korean movies and you know we've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole with Korean cinema the last year or
Korean
two.
Movies.
Yeah, and there's some really great action, like The Villainous was incredible, and that influenced John Wick 3, didn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right. I think the tides are changing. I think audiences are going to be demanding better action now, and I am so happy about that.
More John Wick, less The Expendables.
Yes. I don't mind The Expendables. Eco is in Expendables 4.
I heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
That might renew my interest enough to watch it.
Yeah, but I'm scared that he's going to be underused in that film as well.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And he's going to lose a fight to Sly. In what universe is that even remotely believable? An 87-year-old man can take out E08. I don't think so.
Sly wouldn't see him coming.
No, Rambo or not, Rocky or not, I don't care. You throw your Zimmer frame at him, you're still going to lose. I want Eco to be number one in a John Wick movie. I don't know why he hasn't been. I can only imagine it's a scheduling thing.
I mean, maybe he doesn't want to. There's that as well.
Maybe. I mentioned that he does a lot of choreography work. He's a stunt choreographer on a lot of movies now. He was the choreographer on The Night Comes For Us.
Which it was absolutely batshit brilliant.
Yes. He was the choreographer on that, and I think it was fairly late into a pre-production, maybe. And they were like, do you want to be in this? Do you want to be the bad guy? Because you haven't really done that before, so maybe you could be the bad guy. And he did, and it was great.
Brilliant film.
Yeah, but Eco in more stuff. Yayan in way more stuff, please.
Well, he has been in the John Wick movies.
Yes, he was in 3, wasn't he? Yeah, and that was a really good fight, because that was the fight where they both. It's funny, isn't it? Because it's a reverse end of the raid where it's John Wick versus Mad Dog.
John Wick is the Mad Dog in John Wick 3.
Yeah. But they really respect John Wick, and they're like big fans, and yeah, it's an interesting fight. I like that fight actually. It's the one with the belt, isn't it?
Yeah.
He takes his belt off and he's like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie, The Raid, has been super influential to a lot of filmmakers, and the action movie it might be the most important action movie, I would say, of the last 20 years.
Oh, agreed. Hard agree.
You know, you've got John Woo in the 90s, 80s and 90s that influenced that genre then, or this genre then. I feel like The Raid is kind of the hard-boiled of the 2010s.
I would agree with that. My knowledge on action movies is nowhere near as extensive as yours, but I would agree with that, yeah.
I've seen Terminator 2.
What would you need?
Yeah. I've been a fan of the action genre for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Since I was a kid, and that's the whole reason I did judo and karate when I was a kid, because I wanted to kick people in the face. But you weren't allowed to do that when you were a child, so I quit. No, that's not true. I quit because I got a verruca.
Ew.
Yeah. But I wish I'd carried it on, to be honest with you. But yeah, so maybe we should talk about The Raid a bit more.
I don't know. I'm enjoying this.
We've been waffling on about the genre as a whole, but I feel like let's focus it a little bit more on The Raid now. So, Joe Taslim, this was his 3rd movie. Apparently.
That him? Okay.
He was a Olympic judo champion for Indonesia.
Well, I think that's an important thing to note, actually, because although Silat is what Rama uses, most of the other people in the film are incorporating different martial arts. It's not a Silat movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, Silat, we mentioned briefly, but it's the martial art that's indigenous to Indonesia.
Yeah.
Kind of famous for its sort of fluidity and speed, I guess.
It's famous now. I didn't know about it until
I didn't until The Raid. No. Yeah. I had no idea. I was kind of unaware of how many different fighting styles there were in this movie, and that makes it even more impressive to me that they melded all of that together somehow. Yes.
So he was judo champion for 12 years.
Okay, wow.
And then he got an injury and was like, I still want to do martial arts. What can I do? He wanted to do acting.
Yeah.
So did a drama, did a horror, saw The Raid.
Yeah.
No, sorry, saw Marantau. Marantau. And then sent a message to Gareth Evans on Facebook.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I said, I'm an actor. I was judo champion for 12 years. If you're making another movie, I would love to audition for you.
Wow. Is he Indonesian as well?
Yes.
Okay.
5 minutes, Evans replied, yeah, come, email my line producer and we can set up a meeting. And then obviously became second billing in the raid. And has gone on to have quite a successful career since then. Obviously, he was in
the latest Mortal Kombat.
The latest Mortal Kombat.
The best Mortal Kombat.
I liked it. Yes, it's probably the better movie, but I do enjoy that 95 version. He was in that. He was in Star Trek Beyond. He was, but in like makeup, he was an alien. I think he fought Sophia Botella in that. I think.
Okay.
He was in a Fast and Furious. I think he was in Fast 6.
Was he?
Yes.
Oh, I might not have seen that one then.
So he's doing quite well.
Good.
Since then, yeah, and he seems like a top bloke as well. So he's a good character, and as you say, he does incorporate some judo stuff when he has a fight with Mad Dog.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant.
It's a really good fight because you've got. Yayan is doing he's a badass in this film. He is, because I think he
terrifies me.
He's
genuinely.
He's a really good villain.
He's like, his stature is very diminutive.
Yeah.
So, and there's nothing of him.
Yeah.
Like, he is so lean, like 1% body fat or something. Yeah. So he looks really kind of unassuming.
Mm.
And then you see him start flipping around and like, oh my God.
He's just a vicious little bastard as well.
Small people that can handle themselves like that terrify the fuck out of me.
His character is ruthless. And in that fight, there's a part where I think Jaka points a knife at Yayan. And I'm getting character names and actor names mixed up here, but you know what I mean. And Mad Dog is holding a gun. He's sort of puts down the gun, unloads the gun.
Yeah, too easy.
Holds up his hands and says, no, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I want to kill you with my bare hands. And then they have a fight. And
he does, in fact, kill him with his bare hands.
And that fight's really cool because you've got Yayan doing a silat and then Joe Taslim is doing a little bit of judo with the throws. It's difficult because judo is more of a throw and grip kind of martial art rather than kicks and punches.
Okay.
So they had a little bit of that with some of the throws, but it was interesting because you had Yayan, who's quite small, as you say, but Joe towers over him.
Yeah. And
you kind of had those opposing styles, which work really well. Apparently, like 48 takes per scene or whatever, so it was super exhausting to get it just right.
I did hear that they were sort of fighting for like 14 hours a day some days.
That's insane, isn't
it?
Yeah, I can't imagine. But that was a very good fight, and unfortunately, he doesn't make it through that scene, as you say. He gets a little neck break, doesn't he? Gets a little neck slap.
Thought I was going to have to put 50p in you then.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're basically with Iko for the rest of the movie after that, aren't you? And he's fighting his way up the tower block. And
up the 15, not 30 floors.
You've got that excellent fight in a corridor where
do you know what?
It's my second favourite fight scene.
After the final fight, Mm-hmm. I would say the corridor fight is my favourite fight scene because it's just him against a sea of assailants.
Yeah, the machete gang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the brutality of it. He has a knife at one point.
Yeah.
And I think the kind of stabbing people in the leg and then dragging.
Yeah.
Grossed me out so much. The first, I would say Gareth Evans' films are really wincy.
Yeah.
All of them are very wincy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was genius because you don't have to kill someone, you just have to incapacitate them.
Yeah.
And what better way?
You don't need to kill them, just remove their legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then he probably died of blood loss, so, you know.
I mean, I'm not going to shed a tear.
Yeah. He does some interesting stuff with the knife, as you say. There's another scene where he kind of grabs someone and stabs them twice in the chest, then kicks them in the knee, and they go flying, and it's just like, it blows your mind. I don't know. I must have watched that corridor fight and the last fight at least 20, 25 times,
Yeah.
maybe, like independent.
Just in isolation.
Yeah, and I'll just throw. So many times I'll just put YouTube on, and YouTube's
Yeah.
like, "Want to watch this fight again?" All right, yes, please.
Go on then.
Yeah, exactly.
Embarrassingly, I did that with a lot of the fights from Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey. Oh,
all the Margot Robbie fights were really fun.
Yeah, no, that was a fun movie.
But then they brought on the fight choreo people from John Wick. So, but yeah, that corridor scene is something else.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is specifically about that scene that makes me enjoy it more than the others.
Is that the one with the doorway?
Yes.
Is that the one you're? Yeah,
I
think it's. For me, it's the use of the location as well as the choreography.
Yeah, the inventiveness. Yeah. Which is a curious thing to say, given that Gareth Evans kind of ripped that off of Peter Jackson.
Did he?
There's like a jagged doorway bit in Brain
Oh,
Dead.
right, yes.
Well, he's been very open about it.
Yeah.
Like you say, he's not just ripping people off. He is openly saying, I am inspired by.
Yeah.
But yeah, he said that was his little nod to Peter Jackson.
Right. Was it Brain Dead?
Brain Dead, yeah.
Okay.
Or Dead Alive if you're in America.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I saw that movie.
It's great. How dare you?
I don't care for it.
It's so fun.
But yeah, I really like that doorway scene. Obviously, he's fighting the gang and he throws one of them through the door and the door breaks. And then he grabs someone else by the head and then sort of jumps back and pulls them towards the jaggedy edge of the doorway. Just
the way he moves is something else.
Yeah.
His speed is unmatched.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, maybe by Yayan.
Well, yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a machine.
Yeah. But it's also, he's great, but it's also the directing style. As he pulls that person down onto that doorway, that is punctuating that scene. That scene's now over, but you're ending on such a note like, wow.
Yeah.
And it's just incredibly well done. But it's not just that, it's also the drama of it, because after he pulls that down, and Gareth has spoken about this as well, after he pulls that guy down, he's just effectively murdered someone. Eco looks at him in the eye and you can see he's going, oh shit, I've just murdered someone.
Yeah. He's
just on autopilot trying to survive. And he said he kind of got that from Bruce Lee. And, he will do like a brutal attack on someone. And then
show remorse after.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, kind of. Just like, you're just acting on instinct. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards you think, I just murdered somebody.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're put in a life or death situation, if it's you or them, you're always going to choose you. But then there are emotional repercussions.
Absolutely. And, you're not just doing an Arnold thing where he's just killing someone and going, oh, excuse my friend, he's dead tired. He's not doing a quip. There's actual drama. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy it. I love Commando.
There's
brilliant.
Room for everything.
Exactly. But this is just... And I think this is why I put this in the top tier of action movies, because it also does have the drama, which you don't necessarily expect. This would have been an all-timer for me if it was just about the action.
But the acting is far better than you would expect in an action movie. And please don't mistake that for me admonishing action movies, because I'm not. Mm. But typically they're not known for their acting.
No. And they don't necessarily have to be.
No, of course not. That's not why most people are watching them.
Yeah.
But like you say, it does give the Raid an edge that most action movies don't have.
It just pushes it over a little bit, a lot. It turns it from a really good, brilliant action movie to a masterpiece, in my opinion, that sort of thing.
And given that Eco hadn't acted before he met Gareth Evans, he's really good.
He's excellent in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since I've seen The Raid 2. I'm really keen to rewatch that.
Yeah, me too.
Especially since we've kind of gone on a deep dive on Eco and Gareth Evans and all of the actors involved with these movies. It would be nice to kind of watch that and kind of switch my brain off a bit and just enjoy it.
I know what you mean, yeah. So it's probably a good time to talk about some of Gareth's other influences, I suppose.
All right.
So we've mentioned Brain Dead already.
Yeah.
He credits John Carpenter quite a lot. I think with specific reference to maybe Assault on Precinct 13, because that is much like The Raid, kind of a stuck in a place movie where, you're fighting off assailants. In that instance, it was a little bit different because the assailants were outside of the building for the most part.
Completely different.
Yeah, wildly different.
I think a lot of it is probably vibe, right? In terms of tension building and, that sort of slow build of the music and all of that stuff, and using the location and that kind of sense of potentially being overwhelmed by the sheer amount of people. So that makes total sense to me.
And also, he said in an interview that I read, he was borrowing from the Crow Zero playbook, which we also watched in preparation for this show.
Yes, we did watch that movie.
I really enjoy Crow Zero. I've
Good
never
for you.
seen the sequels. I watched the first one maybe a decade ago, and I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, my old housemate put it on.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what is this nonsense? This is insane. And I didn't know at the time that it was a live action manga.
Right.
Like it was an adaptation. You did not care for that movie,
No,
did you?
it wasn't quite my... and it's more of a taste thing, I think. Just mixing that kind of comedy, that dark humour with some kind of cartoony type things. Makes total sense what you're saying with the manga thing.
Yeah.
But it's just a little bit outside of my taste zone, I think, probably.
That's fair. But yeah, the person he references the most is definitely John Carpenter.
Okay. John Carpenter, Takeshi Miike. When did Crow Zero come out? Was that 2007?
I want to say 2007, yeah.
So not long before The Raid.
Yeah.
Not too long. Quite a recent movie when The Raid was being made, probably around 2010.
I mean, to be honest, the interview that I read was kind of vague, so it's possible he meant he was influenced by the actual manga.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah,
because
of course.
apparently it was just like an ultra-violent Japanese property.
Yeah.
So maybe it was that. But yeah, I was sad that you didn't care for that.
No, well, you can't like everything. Can
No.
you?
Did you know that there's a Wilhelm scream in this film?
Is there? I didn't know that he was in this. Who is he?
What are you talking about?
Wilhelm. Isn't he the bloke that was in The Hangover?
You're thinking of Ed Helms.
Oh, right. There's an Ed Helms scream.
There's a Wilhelm scream.
Right.
Do you know what it is?
Is it the cat thing?
No.
Oh.
But you're on the right track. It's a stock sound effect, basically.
Right.
It's a scream that was first used in, I believe, 1951.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know. It's something we used to talk about on Radio Gore Press quite a bit because Phil and I, my old co-host, made a point of trying to listen for them for a long time.
Okay.
It's almost like just a little nerdy reward every time you catch one.
So what's the sound?
It's a scream.
Ah!
Yeah,
Right.
it's just known as the Wilhelm scream.
Okay.
But yeah, it's during the first shootout when the gangster's thrown out of the window.
Okay.
So that made me quite happy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't actually catch it. Did you also know the guns in the film are not real? None of the guns actually fired. They were airsoft replicas. So none of them were actually functioning guns.
Yeah.
And all of the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? The functionality of the guns, I suppose, like the muzzle flashes and the casings being propelled, being ejected out. All of that was digital.
Yeah.
Which I think is really impressive because I would never have known.
No, it looked great. I wonder if a lot of that is to do with the lighting.
Yeah, I imagine.
I spoke about the use of CGI. They do use squibs in this movie, but there is also an element of CGI blood, I think, where maybe the squibs didn't quite work out or whatever.
Yeah. I love a good squib. I want that to make a comeback.
But the use of CGI in this film is great. It's what you need CGI for.
Yeah, it's minimal.
Yeah, and it's used to enhance effects, isn't it, rather than create entire scenes.
Yeah. But I thought that was really impressive because I would never have known that.
Okay.
But it makes sense. I mean, not to go on a downer or anything, but you only have to look at things like The Crow or this recent Alec Baldwin thing.
Yeah.
To know that using real firearms on a set is a really bad idea.
It is a bad idea. It was never a good idea in the first place. But also now you just don't need to. So why are you still doing it?
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. If you can get replica guns that look as good as they do in this film, I would never have known.
Yeah, and if you shoot it correctly, you can get the muzzle flash and the blood splatter and everything looking exactly how you need it to look. So there's just no need for it anymore.
Yeah. Did you also know the main character's name? So when we were watching this, I kept getting the names muddled up because so many of them are so similar. Because there's a Rama, isn't there also a Tama?
And a Jaka.
And a most of them have 4-letter names, curiously. But yeah, the main character's name, Rama, apparently is taken from Rama Sukarna, who was, according to folklore, a woman who is credited to have been the first person to teach Silat in a structured way.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
I like that.
Nice little honouring for those that are in the know. But yeah, it says, according to Sumatran folklore, just to take it back to brain dead again.
What was that,
Sumatran rat monkeys, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Tying it all together.
Yeah.
You've mentioned lighting a couple times.
Yeah.
Should we talk a bit about that? Because the lighting, the use of lighting, the shadows, all of that is used phenomenally well and is clearly well thought out.
Yeah, I think it just adds to the look of the movie. I do know that there's Gareth Evans is in the process of regrading this movie for a 4K release. So it'd be interesting to see how that looks.
Oh, wow. Is there a pre-order? I want it now.
Well, maybe. I don't know. But I follow him on Instagram, and every now and again he'll post before and after pictures.
Oh, interesting.
But I'll be interested to see how it looks after that, because obviously he made it in mind and lit it in mind of the technology at the time. But it looks incredible, that particularly the stuff in Atrium, he really plays with the light and what's going on in the background, what's purposefully hidden and is slowly revealed.
Yeah, I mean, the best example of that, I think, is the first scene in the Atrium.
Yes, with the guns.
Yeah, when
with the guns. With the guns. Only the first half,
but I think that's the moment where most of the police officers get offed, isn't it? Yeah,
and there's a really good bit where they there's a slow motion part where they fire. I think, isn't there, the gangs are organising themselves on a floor above?
Yeah, they're on different levels.
The SWAT team notices, and one of them fires a bullet, and it's slow motion, and you just see the bullet come out slowly.
Oh, and the shadows, like the moving shadow. Oh my God, that's so brilliantly done. It's beautiful.
It's so well done. Yeah, it looks great.
But yeah, that's the moment at which, I guess it's slow-mo, because it's like, fuck, you kind of realising what he's done.
Yeah.
Because they were sort of kind of aware of each other's presence, but shrouded in darkness.
Yeah.
And that muzzle flash was enough to illuminate them.
Yeah.
And kind of sealed most of their fate. Genius.
Yeah.
So well done. But yeah, apparently Gareth Evans said that lighting in the film was very difficult, because there's several sequences during the film where the camera does a full 180 degrees and moves around the room. So apparently, to supplement that, the production crews used lights on long poles and constantly moved with the camera.
Oh, that's insane. It was all in the planning, right? Because there's a lot of long sequences and obviously putting together the action stuff. So it must have just literally been logistically planned within an inch of its life. Moving the lighting around while filming, that's insane.
Yeah.
But I guess I've never thought about it before, but I guess you have to if you're doing that sort of take.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'd never considered it either. But I think I don't know how they did it. I would love to have seen a full behind the scenes of a proper breakdown of how they achieved everything, because I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah. No, it'd be nice that if there was a documentary shot alongside it. I don't think they realised quite how successful this film was going to be.
And how successful was it? I mean, I know we've not got box office, but
I don't, monetary wise, I've got no idea.
I feel like it's a film that's done a lot better in the years since its release.
Well, I first came upon The Raid when roughly 2015-ish, because I completely missed it when it was released. But people were raving about The Raid 2. And I was like, what's this The Raid 2 that everyone's talking about? And then people were saying...
Is there a The Raid 1?
Yeah, exactly. And people saying it's best action movie ever made. I love it. And I was like, oh, what's this? And, younger me, not really that willing to watch a movie that's not in English.
You heathen.
I was lazy. But I thought, I'll give these movies a go. And I bought The Raid and The Raid 2 on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Saturday night, on my own, bottle of wine, pizza in the oven, put on The Raid. And I don't think I took my eyes off the screen for the 100 minutes running time or whatever it was.
Charred pizza.
Yeah, I did. And then I loved it, and then I was like, okay, now I've got to watch The Raid 2. And I put that on straight away.
Did you?
I did a double bill
wow.
of The Raid and The Raid 2 in one night. And
They're very different films.
And, well, yeah, yes, the second one is way more ambitious, and it's, as you say, it's more of a crime, not espionage, crime...
Epic, I guess,
yeah, Godfather-y type vibe. Yeah. But still maintaining the fighting style,
yes,
prowess, and brutality of The Raid 1. So yeah, that was my initial introduction to these movies, and I've never looked back.
I think I definitely watched The Raid on its release because I wasn't at Fright Fest that year, but I know it. I believe it screened at Fright Fest.
Yeah.
I know I was at the one where they showed us a preview of The Raid 2. We got to see the train car sequence with Hammer Girl.
Great, yeah.
I was just like, holy shit, I need to see this film immediately, get that in my eyeballs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I saw it on pretty much on release. And it was one of those where I was just like, how do I make sure everybody I've ever met sees this film?
Yeah. It
was one of those, like, I have to share this with everyone I know.
Yeah.
And I've made a lot of my friends watch it, and they're still my friends, so it went well.
I think if someone's a fan of action movies, it's a no-brainer. You're going to love this film.
Yeah.
But then it comes down to taste. I don't think my mum would get anything out of The Raid because she just doesn't really enjoy action movies.
Okay. I think my mum would probably enjoy it. My 78-year-old northern mother would. She'd watch it, but she'd cover her face through a lot.
Yeah, understandably.
And there'd be a lot of noises next to me.
Get the plasters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other movies that this reminds you of? Like, are there any comparisons in your mind that you think? No, aside from like
Assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, the one that everyone always says is Dread. That's the one that always comes up.
Dread came after, right?
I think so, but they were close enough that they would have been
in production in about the same time. Yeah.
So I think it was just parallel thinking.
I love Dread, but The Raid is head and shoulders above it.
The Dread is a really solid, enjoyable, fun,
inventive,
popcorn inventive movie. But The Raid is a masterpiece. So it's like, but I don't know. Do you know what? Watching The Raid this time, it made me think of films like Wreck, maybe like documentary style, like films that are made in that style that are meant to be like come from a documentary perspective. I kind of was thinking about things like that because I think because the way the camera moves and it's so fluid and it feels kind of like you're following these people rather than being staged
viewing
scenes.
It set back.
It just feels like it kind of feels like you're following Rama.
Well,
rather than
to me, it's kind of in that vein. It sort of reminds me of a computer game. Yeah, that level of immersion and immediacy.
Yeah, and also the goal. You've got a clear goal in a computer game. You start at the bottom of the building. You've got to get to the top of the building. You've got a boss on this level. You've got the machete gang on that level, and then Mad Dog and Jucker have a fight, and then you're just building your way up to the top. And maybe you've got a brother in the building that you didn't know about or did know about. Did you know about him?
Yeah,
you knew about him?
Well, there was. So in the very opening scene, there's the older man as Rama is leaving, and I can't remember if they exchange any words, but there's like a knowing look. So, and again in the back of the van, like it could be read as nerves, but to me, I read it as he knows,
right? And
he's gonna like his mission, because I could sort of read it as the older man is his father, who's almost like encouraging him to get the brother out.
Right. Okay. So that's his focus then, really. Is obviously he's going as a policeman, and he is a good guy. At one point he says, his brother says to him, "Take off your uniform." He says, "No, it fits." And it's good because you've got that kind of opposite. It's kind of like a Joker Batman thing, I think, where you've got the good and the bad, but they're two sides of the same coin, kind of.
Yes, the duality. Yeah.
Andy is the name of his brother.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of him at the start. You see that he's talking to Tama and Mad Dog.
Yeah.
And then you see him murder someone in the lift with a knife, which was nearly cut from the movie.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't.
But you don't see, other than those couple of scenes, you don't really see him until you get to the end.
Yeah.
And then I think it's maybe after the fight with the machete gang, is it? Or is it after Rama falls out of the building or something? Rama is at the end of his rope. He's like, he's stumbling, he's knackered.
Yeah.
And then Andy grabs him.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone else grabs him, he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens to be his brother. And then they end up having a little fight with Mad Dog together, right? Because Mad Dog catches Andy?
No.
No, yes, he does. Because Andy goes back to Tama, and then Tama says, "Show me your hands," and he stabs Andy through the hand.
Because he's seen on the CCTV.
Yes, that he's murdered his colleagues.
Mad Dog's just dragging Jacka behind him.
Yes, he chains Andy up, right? And Rama finds the room where Andy is chained up. After
the epic drug lab fight.
Oh, that's what I'm missing. The drug lab fight. Yeah, of course. How could I forget about that?
How could you?
I love that scene.
It's great.
Yeah. Oh, man. Maybe that's my second favourite fight. I think, okay, fight scenes for me, you've got the final fight and then everything else is just equally brilliant.
Okay.
But yeah, the lab scene was great. That opened the amount of space there is in there and just so much going on.
Yeah, because everything else up to that point has been relatively claustrophobic.
Yeah,
and very contained.
absolutely.
Like, especially when, I don't know the guy's name, but when Rama and the injured police officer are hiding behind in the crawl space in the apartment.
Oh, yeah. God,
and the machete guy is stabbing through the wall.
Yeah.
That is the most claustrophobic point in the film. But because most of the apartments are quite small, it has a very claustrophobic feel. Yeah. And then you get to this big open space.
Yeah. And it's epic as well, because there's lots going on in the background. There's Rama's fighting over here, and then you've got the white-haired, I can't remember his character name, but the baddie, one of the baddies, corrupt policeman. He's also doing a fight on someone, and then maybe they help each other out a little bit. And
he slams a chair over somebody at some point.
Yeah, but then like we're seeing him, and I'm thinking, I just want to bring Eco back. I want to see what Eco's doing.
He's on a table somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, great fight scene. But then, as I've said many times on this episode, my favourite fight scene is one with Mad Dog, and as I was saying. Ramo enters the room, sees that his brother's tied up, and you think, oh, there's going to be a fight now between Mad Dog and Rama. Who's going to win? Yeah. They're both really brutal. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And then Rama unhooks Andy, and he's like, I want to fight both of you. Yeah. Because Jacka wasn't enough of a challenge for him. And I remember watching that for the first time, just thinking, oh my God, I fucking love this. And then, but that fight is just, I think it's my favourite fight scene in a movie of all time. The choreography is next level. It's so good. I can't think of a single thing that matches it, to be honest. Yeah. But just, I think the build up to it is a big, the choreography is incredible, I agree. But I think everything that's come before it has really steered me into that. This is the greatest fight scene of all time, because the tension build, you see how much of a badass Mad Dog is, you see how much of a badass Rama is, and as I say, you think they're going to have this epic fight, but then it ends up being a 2-on-1, and it's not. It's beyond epic. It's beyond epic, and it's and then, but like it's not like the two overpower Mad Dog very easily. Yeah. Like, he nearly kills both of them. Yeah. And even when he's been stabbed in the neck with a broken fluorescent light, he carries on fighting. With and the tube in his neck. The blood coming out of it. The blood coming out of the end of the tube, and he's still grabbing them. And then there's a profile shot of Mad Dog in the middle with said tube coming out of his head. Rama is on his right, Andy is on his left, and he's kneeing Rama in the chest and then turning around and and the music's going and it's building and building and building, and I'm just so energized by the end of that scene. Honestly, every time I'm just fucking punching the air. And then as soon as the credits come on, I'm like, right, Googling Sil Atlas in the UK. It's just the best. I love it. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's euphoric. Yeah, and it's a real reward as well. Like, you've gone through this movie and I've enjoyed everything, but you just think, how are they going to top this? How are they going to top this?
Oh, they do.
And they do. And it's just magnificently done.
Yeah, you mentioned the music, actually. I think it's important to note that I've never seen the Indonesian version of this film. I've only ever watched the international version, which has the score by, I forget the other guy's name, but one of them is Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park.
Right.
And I don't think we need to talk about the music for a quick sec before we wrap up.
Yeah,
because I think, like you said, when the excitement is building and the score has been building this whole time, I think the music is very important to this film. And I'm curious to watch the Indonesian version with the different score, actually.
I would really like to watch it. Yeah. Definitely. I've seen this version enough times that I really need to watch the Indonesian version. I don't know where you go about procuring said Indonesian version of The Raid.
No.
But I would like to. But yeah, so Gareth had commissioned his guys to compose the soundtrack for The Raid, and then it wasn't until
the Mike Shinoda thing came on way later,
and Sony were like, we'll distribute your movie, but would you be open to someone else
on our label?
Exactly, scoring this movie. And I think probably there was a bit of good fortune there, and they probably saw a movie and loved it, and what they did with that score was incredible.
It was great.
It could have quite easily gone the other way. It could have been someone that didn't give a shit. But I think Evans was quite relieved when he spoke to them, and they were like, we're going to use it to build suspense and use it sparingly. And sometimes it's quiet, and then sometimes it builds. And no better example than the final fight scene. Use of music was excellent. Yeah,
there are certain musical cues that I because I've seen this film so much, I'll hear a particular note and be like, oh, yes, I know what's coming next. It's crazy. But that's why I'm so interested to watch the Indonesian version, because to me, like, the score is so integral to this film. I don't know.
Yeah. Didn't they use the that score for the Lee Hardcastle version of The Raid?
That was the Mike Shinoda one.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Claycat The Raid.
Yeah.
Which, if you haven't seen it, please do look for that on YouTube.
Really funny. Yeah, it's on the Blu-ray. Extra. Yeah. So are we?
Is there anything else you want to say about The Raid?
Probably a million things, but people have got things
at the risk of this being a 4.5 hour episode.
We should probably think about wrapping it up, because this is the final episode of our first season.
Yeah.
But don't worry, because we will be back.
We're having a little break.
Yeah, we're having a 4-week break.
Yep. This is going to be how we structure things permanently. 8 weeks on, 4 weeks off to prep the next season.
Yeah.
And we are very excited about it. I'm very excited about it. I can't speak for you.
Yeah, I'm excited. We've already planned what we're doing for season 2. We've already scheduled all of our episodes. And we'll be back. That will be our first episode. Will be released on July 17th. So make sure you're subscribed and ready for us to for that show to come out.
Yep, we will probably drop a little preview during the break.
We will drop a preview during the break as well. And also, if you're feeling like you're enjoying the podcast and you're not happy about us having a break, then there's actually more content on Patreon.
There is, yes.
We've just recorded our Guardians of the Galaxy 3 episode, so that'll be on there at least. But we're going to do at least one new movie per month. It will probably be way more than that. Let's be honest. We watch a lot of movies.
I would go out on a limb and say minimum of 2 every month. Minimum of 2 mini reviews.
You said it.
Yeah,
you said it.
I'm happy to stick to that. I will do solo reviews if I must.
Yeah. And as a little bonus as well, if you do become a Patreon, you'll also have access to our end of season wrap.
Yes.
Where we're going to be talking about all of the films that we covered for this season. So Cops being our theme. We're going to talk about some of the movies that didn't make the cut.
Yeah, that were on the shortlist but got dropped.
Yep. And also maybe there'll be some other films that we completely forgot about.
Yep. And just the theme as a whole.
And the theme as a whole, exploring the genre and our thoughts on it and so on and so forth. So if you would like to hear more of us while we're on our break, then head over to Patreon and become a member.
Link will be in the description.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess all there is to say is thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your platform of choice, and come and shoot the shit with us on social media. All the links are in the description.